I might be a little late to the party here, however, if there is a potential of saving more than $160 while getting very much the same value, or at least so it seems, well, I'm always for it. As the saying goes, better late than never. So, what's the story here? How is it possible that instead of $300 or more like $450 for the Swiss movement option, San Martin can sell this diver nearly 3 times cheaper? And I believe that there is actually even more to that cost saving than catches the eye. I know you simply can't wait to find out what it is. Well, let's cut the suspense and take a closer look at it. Hello and welcome back! Right, so a spoiler alert, even though we have here a dramatic price difference, the materials used are still the same. Yes, we have a full stainless steel construction, sapphire crystal, which we will double check later though, and ceramic bezel insert. And I also have this tropic style rubber strap so we can see how this watch wears on this strap too. However, I must report that while there are definitely cost-cutting measures, San Martin, like on their other budget offerings, managed to hide those measures really well, which I've got to admit isn't a bad thing. It makes my job a little bit more difficult, but it makes the watch look good. However, before we start dissecting each and every nuance of the skin diver, for full transparency, San Martin did reach out and ask me if I would be interested to review this watch before the upcoming 11/11 sale. The offer I obviously couldn't refuse, especially taking into account that they might be running even further discounts on this already aggressively priced timepiece. So yes, I get to keep this watch too, and as usual on my part, I'll do my best to share a comprehensive review of this watch, and all the necessary product links where you can explore this watch further will be in the description of this video. So before we look over the design and start analyzing what we are not getting here compared to the $300 San Martin, I should point out that the savings actually start with the packaging, which I guess is a good thing. Less money spent on a fancy schmancy packaging, more money left for the watch. So yes, instead of this soft and cushy leatherette carry case, we will be getting this plastic fantastic box, which strictly speaking is totally fit for purpose. Not glamorous looking, but will do the job just fine. Now, next on the saving chopping block, so to speak, was the movement. In the $300 version, San Martin used a higher bit PT5000 movement, or for about $450 we had an option of using Swiss-made equivalent Sellita SW200. As you can imagine, we will not be getting either of these options here, and personally I believe it is a good thing too, because I think a tried and tested Seagull H35 is much better fit for a budget and robust skin diver, and that's exactly what we're gonna get here. Just as a reminder, in case you missed it in my previous 100 or so reviews about this movement, it is an automatic mechanical movement. It beats at 21,600 vibrations per hour and has about 41 hours of power reserve. Now, a side note, this movement also has a date complication which results in a so-called ghost position of the crown on this no-date diver. Having said that, the $300 and even the $450 version have the same feature as well. Now, what about the design then? Well, here is the thing, this watch does have general cues of the glass shooter SeaQ and of the Wolbrook's Douglas skin diver, in particular on the dial. However, at close inspection it does not clamage neither of those watches. By the way, that German and French brand should possibly have a little chat between themselves too, but that could be a subject for a completely new video. Anyway, back to the San Martin. So we established that the dial and possibly the bezel do follow German and French designs. The case design is actually, at least from where I see it, comes from a brand from a completely different part of the world. And no, it is not Switzerland. And that is that little secret that I think gave San Martin even further edge when it came to cost cutting. And we will look at it shortly. So, briefly going over the dimensions, we have 40mm case diameter, 20mm lug width, 13mm case height, lug-to-lug distance of 47.8mm and just over 51mm distance if we measure the protruding end links. The supplied stainless steel bracelet will cover up to 8¼ inch or 21cm wrist in circumference, and this watch weighs 167 grams. Okay, case. We have here full stainless steel construction. The case is fully brushed on top and on the flanks. The lugs are well slanted downwards for a good wrist comfort, and while we don't have any additional nuances here like beveling of the flanks like we have on the SeaQ or horizontal brushing of the sides like we have on the Wolbrooks, not even drilled lugs like we have on the $300 San Martin, well, this case still looks well proportioned and elegant. However, I would argue that relevant simplicity of the case form also helps to keep the cost down. In a true vintage skin diver fashion here, there are no crown guards and well-proportioned signed screw-down crown is very easy to engage. Flipping the case over and we have here sterile screw-on back case, which together with the screw-down crown should provide sufficient case seal for the declared 200 meters of water resistance. Now, if we're looking at some cost cutting, well, the good news is that we will not find it in the bezel section. The 120 click unidirectional coin edge bezel has good resistance and very tight tolerances. Alignment is spot on and the bezel action is very good too, with pretty much no backplate to speak of, so no complaints here. And here is how this bezel sounds. As I expected, we have here sapphire crystal with a sufficient amount of anti-reflective coating, so no obvious cost-cutting here either. The slightly double-dome sapphire crystal is raised nearly 1 mm above the bezel. However, if we look at the product pictures of the $300 San Martin, the crystal is actually raised even higher, to the point that it can even qualify as boxed, which usually do come at a higher cost. So, as I mentioned earlier, the dial takes a lot of cues from SeaQ and Wolbrook's divers. However, in the same way like the case of this watch, the dial design is very minimalistic. All the markings are printed as well as San Martin logo above the pinion. There is no date window, which I know a lot of you no-date purists will appreciate, and not having a date also helps to keep the cost down, because it is one less dial component to worry about. The hands are nicely proportioned and we have sufficient amount of lume on this dial too. Here is my usual 15-minute lume test. The hands and the bezel lume peep do stand out ever so slightly brighter compared to the hour indices, however, it is not a bad thing, especially on the skin diver type watch. Right, so here on the bracelet I think is where we will find the most obvious cost-cutting areas. That is not to say that the bracelet is bad, on the contrary, this stainless steel bracelet feels very well put together and has a solid links and solid end links. The integration with the case is good, the finishing is very decent, very similar to the finishing on the case, and the tolerances on the bracelet are very good too. However, if this $300 version has a beads of rice bracelet where links are connected by screws, this bracelet features again a somewhat more minimalistic design, and we have here pin and collar system for links connection. Good, robust system, however, a bit of a pain to adjust compared to screws or simple pins. And another kind of obvious cost-cutting area here is the clasp. Unlike on the $300 version, there is no on-the-fly adjustment here. Other than that, this clasp is actually very good. It is fully milled, has plenty of macro adjustments, features robust double pusher action, and is nicely decorated with the applied San Martin logo. And being somewhat a strap monster, this watch looks very good on this tropic-style rubber strap, as you can see on my about 7-inch wrist. However, for less than $10 extra, I would strongly recommend buying this watch on the stainless steel bracelet, because you can always get the rubber strap later. Right, so before I share my verdict, first I want to finally show that not so obvious cost-cutting feature that I discovered kind of by accident when I was reviewing other San Martin watches in my collection. So what you see here is not some kind of a video editing trick, and no, I didn't just get lucky and manage to magically clone this San Martin SeaQ Homage. No, what we have here is another budget version of San Martin lineup, and as I continue to turn the cases around, yes, the only difference here, well, at least to me, is the dial and the bezel insert. Okay, the finishing on the flanks is also slightly different. One has high polish flanks and another one brushed, but other than that, these two cases are pretty much identical. So just like that, with one case shape we can make a SeaQ Homage and Japanese Seiko 62 mask Homage, and as such take advantage of economies of scale. Yes, it is much more cost effective to produce the same part for two different models. Car manufacturers actually do it all the time. As for my verdict, well, I don't see any deal breakers here, and if I'm very much budget conscious, which I am most of the time these days, I really appreciate that I can still get this style skin diver with no quality compromises for less than half the price. And by the way, if you want to see my reviews of other budget offerings from San Martin, including this 62 Mars and even very popular Black Bay Homage, well, click on the link on the screen. I'll put the link somewhere around here. Don't forget to like, of course, subscribe. Thank you for watching, take care, and I will see you in the next video.